Korean Mafia boss only wanted one night, but when he saw her trembling, his heart stopped. The night's soul breathed felt colder than usual. Neon lights flickered against rain-stained windows, the city humming with honking taxis, late-night convenience stores, and shadows that never fully slept. Somewhere high above the streets, inside a private room of Club Gwangjin, a man stood with the kind of stillness that made everyone else in the building hold their breath. Kang Jisu, the name that made gang leaders lower their eyes and police chiefs lock their doors. Black suit, cold gaze, presence sharp enough to slice glass. He controlled half the underground logistics that ran through the Han River, and tonight was supposed to be simple for him. A quick meeting, a distraction, nothing more. He didn't need complications. He didn't want attachments. He didn't allow anyone close. Not since that night. But everything shifted the moment the door opened and she stepped inside. Her name was Amara Hayes, a black American woman who had been in Korea for less than a year. She worked 2 part-time jobs, carried textbooks in a worn backpack, and hid exhaustion behind a brave smile. She wasn't someone who belonged inside a Mafia-owned VIP room. No one had explained anything to her. No one had told her who she would be serving. She held a tray with trembling hands. Jisu noticed it instantly. Not the tray, the trembling. His gaze sharpened. She had soft brown eyes, wide with fear, and rain still clinging to the ends of her braids as if the night had followed her all the way inside. Her uniform was simple, black with pink trim, but the colors couldn't hide how nervous she was. Her breathing was uneven. Her fingers shook no matter how tightly she tried to grip the tray. The sight caught him off guard. He shouldn't care. He didn't care. And yet, something tightened in his chest. She approached cautiously, her shoes tapping softly on the marble floor. The sound echoed to the silent room, bouncing off glass walls, designer chairs, and the faint, distant thump of club music downstairs. "Sir," she whispered, voice almost breaking. "Your drink." Jisu didn't move. He watched her, observed her. Her fear was too real, too raw, not the kind of fear people had around him because of his reputation. This fear felt like it came from life itself. "Put it on the table," he said quietly. His voice was deep, calm, unreadable, but Amara flinched anyway. She placed a drink down, but the glass rattled lightly against the tabletop. She squeezed her hands together behind her back, trying to hide the shaking. Jisu noticed that too. "What's your name?" he asked. She froze. "Amara." "Look at me." She hesitated before lifting her eyes, and he felt it, a jolt, quick and unexpected, like something inside him stumbled. Her eyes were tired. Her heart seemed heavy, and her fear wasn't fear of him. It was fear of the world, fear of something she didn't talk about, fear of something she carried alone. He didn't expect that. He didn't want to feel anything tonight. He just wanted a distraction from the memories clawing at him, a brief moment to forget everything he built his empire to bury. But seeing her standing there, trembling, vulnerable, trying so hard not to fall apart, something in him softened. Something he thought had been dead a long time. "Who brought you up here?" he asked, voice lower now. "The manager," she murmured. "He said you needed someone to serve tonight." Jisu's jaw tightened. Of course the manager thought this was entertainment for him. Of course he assumed Jisu wanted something else. His reputation always twisted people's minds. Amara shifted awkwardly. If I've done something wrong, I can leave. I'm sorry if..." "Stop apologizing." His voice cut through the air like a blade. She swallowed hard. Jisu stepped closer. Not enough to scare her, but enough to see her face better. Enough to see the raindrops drying on her skin. Enough to hear the tiny, uneven rhythm of her breathing. "You're shaking." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again. "It's nothing. I'm just tired." He knew she was lying. Her eyes held a story. A fresh wound. Something she didn't want anyone to see. His cold gaze stayed on hers. "Who hurt you before coming here?" Amara's eyes widened, her fear spiking. Exactly the reaction of someone who had been treated badly tonight. Not just in life. He saw the truth immediately. He stepped even closer. And this time, she stepped back. Her back hit the wall behind her. Her breath hitched. She squeezed her hands together, knuckles whitening. "Don't," she whispered. The word was soft, but it broke something inside him. He lifted both hands slowly, palms open, showing he wouldn't touch her, wouldn't come closer, wouldn't do anything she couldn't handle. "I don't hurt women," he said quietly. "Not ever." Her chest rose and fell as she tried to believe him. A second passed, then another. Her trembling didn't stop, and that was the moment Jisoo realized the truth. He couldn't use her for anything tonight, not even as a temporary distraction. She wasn't someone he could forget in an hour. She wasn't someone who deserved to be dragged into his darkness. She was someone who needed protection, not pressure. He exhaled slowly, a frustrated, conflicted breath. This wasn't supposed to happen. He didn't let strangers get close. He didn't let emotions get in the way. He never reacted to fear or softness. But with her, everything inside him shifted. He stepped back from her first, giving her space. "Sit," he said. Her eyes widened. "W what?" "Sit. You're shaking too much to work." "I'd have thought you called me up here for her." "I didn't call you," he interrupted sharply. "And I don't want whatever the manager assumed." She stared at him, confused. "Then what do you want?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't know himself. Finally, he said, "To know why you're trembling like someone chased you before you walked in." Her lips parted, startled, caught, vulnerable. But before she could answer, the door slammed open. Both of them whipped around. A breathless staff member stood there, eyes wide with panic. "Boss," he choked out. "There's a problem downstairs. Someone's looking for her." Jisoo's eyes darkened immediately. Amara's breath stopped, and her trembling became fear. If you're hooked on the story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to follow every twist of their story. You won't want to miss what happens next. For a moment, no one moved. The room fell into a suffocating silence, the kind that pressed against the walls and made the neon glow feel colder. Amara stood frozen, her breath caught in her throat. Jisoo didn't blink. His eyes, dark and razor-sharp, shifted from a trembling woman to the panicked staff member blocking the doorway. "Repeat that," Jisoo said. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Every word carried weight. The staff member swallowed, hard, as some men came into club. They're asking for her. Amara's knees wobbled. Her fear returned full force. This time not because of Jisoo, but because of whatever waited downstairs. She took one shaky step back, accidentally bumping into the edge of a glass shelf. The soft clink of crystal echoed in the room like a warning. Jisoo noticed everything. The way her breathing quickened, the way her shoulders tightened, the way her eyes, usually bright with resilience, suddenly went hollow. He didn't know her story yet, but he knew danger. He recognized it instantly. "How many men?" Jisoo asked. "F4, the staff member whispered. "They look like trouble. Big trouble. They're not from around here," he added quickly. "And they're definitely not here for club." Jisoo's gaze snapped to Amara. "How do they know you?" he asked. Amara shook her head, her breath shaky. I don't know. I didn't tell anyone I work here." Her voice broke at the end, almost like she wished she could disappear into the walls. Jisoo stepped toward her, slow and controlled. He stopped a small distance away, giving her space. "Look at me." She tried, failed, then slowly lifted her eyes to meet his. "Tell me the truth," he said. "Are they here to hurt you?" Her lips trembled. Her eyes glistened with a thin layer of panic she tried so hard to hide. Then she whispered the smallest, softest, "Yes." Jisoo exhaled, a sound almost too calm for what was happening. He turned to the staff member. "Lock down the club. No one in, no one out." "Yes, boss." The staff member ran. The door shut again with a heavy thud. Amara pressed her back against the wall, her fingers gripping the sides of her uniform. I didn't want this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring trouble here." "Stop apologizing," Jisoo said again, the same deep, steady voice from earlier. But this time, he wasn't scolding. He was grounding her, anchoring her. He stepped closer. She tensed immediately, not because he scared her, but because she was already so overwhelmed she barely had room in her chest to breathe. "Who are they?" he asked. She looked away. "People I left behind." Jisoo didn't push, not yet. He could already tell she was barely holding herself together. But he needed one thing from her. "Amara," he said carefully, "did you run away from them?" Her voice cracked. "Yes." The truth landed like a stone between them, and suddenly everything made sense. Her trembling, her exhaustion, her fear of footsteps behind her, her flinching at shadows, her refusal to look at herself in reflective surfaces. She had been running long before tonight. Jisoo inhaled slowly, fighting the urge to react too strongly. He didn't know these men, but he didn't need to. Anyone who came into his territory asking for a woman, this scared, they didn't have good intentions. Listen to me, he said. They won't touch you here. But you don't know them, she whispered. And they don't know me, he replied. His voice was ice. Cold, steady, absolute. Her breath paused. Something flickered across her face, a mixture of fear and relief, tangled together in a knot she didn't know how to untie. Then the lights in the room flickered. Music from downstairs cut off abruptly. Jisu's eyes narrowed. They're getting impatient. A loud crash echoed from somewhere below. Glass breaking, a chair falling, someone shouting. Amara flinched so hard she covered her ears. Jisoo stepped in front of her instantly, shielding her from the door, from the noise, from everything. Stay behind me, he said. I shouldn't be here, she whispered, shaking her head. I shouldn't have come to Korea. I shouldn't have taken this job. I shouldn't. Amara, just her name, firm, solid, pulling her out of her spiral. You're safe right now, he said. Her breath shivered. She didn't fully believe safety existed anymore. Not for her. But the way he said it, something inside her wanted to believe. Then heavy footsteps approached the hallway. Slow, intentional, 4 sets, getting closer. Amara's heart slammed painfully in her chest. Jisu's jaw tightened. He grabbed his phone, pressing one button. Bring my men. Now. A voice answered immediately. On the way. He slid the phone away. Another crash echoed downstairs. Closer this time, like someone was making a pass straight up to them. Amara's lips parted soundlessly. Her eyes filled with fear so raw it made Jisu's pulse spike. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He acted. He turned to her. Come here. She froze. It's safer near me, he added. She hesitated, then took one small step forward, and another. When she reached him, he could hear her unsteady breathing. Her hands shook at her sides. She wasn't used to someone standing up for her. She wasn't used to anyone choosing her safety first. You're trembling again, he said quietly. She tried to apologize. He stopped her before the word formed. Don't, he murmured. Something heavy hit the stair railing outside. Her whole body jerked. Jisoo moved, instinctive and protective, placing himself firmly between her and the door. Stay behind me, he repeated. Her fingers lightly gripped the back of his suit jacket. Not pulling, not clutching, just searching for something solid. The footsteps reached the landing. Stopped. The entire hallway went silent. Then, a fist pounded on the VIP door. Open up, a deep voice shouted. We know she's in there. Amara's knees nearly buckled. Her hand tightened on Jisu's jacket, breath catching in her throat. Jisu's eyes darkened, a quiet, dangerous shift, a promise of what would happen if they tried to force their way in. He glanced back at her, just once. You're under my protection now, he whispered, before she could process the meaning behind those words. The door lock clicked, not from inside, from outside. Someone was trying to break in, and the door slowly began to open. The door slid open just enough for a sliver of hallway light to spill into the room. Amara's breath stilled. Her hand tightened on Jisu's jacket, not out of strength but out of desperation. Her fingertips trembled against the dark fabric, as if it was the only thing keeping her from collapsing to the floor. For silhouettes stood outside, large, broad-shouldered, shadows swallowing the light behind them. Jisu's eyes sharpened instantly, his mind calculating everything. Exits, angles, positioning. The woman stayed behind him. His body was calm, but his presence shifted into something darker, colder, and infinitely more dangerous. One of the men stepped forward, pushing the door wider. There he was, the man who had shouted earlier. Tall, muscular, anger twisting his face like a storm too loud to control. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on Amara trembling behind Jisu's back. There you are, the man spat. Amara's entire body seized. Jisoo stepped fully in front of her, blocking her from the man's line of sight. You don't walk into my club uninvited. The man snorted. Move. This is between us and her. She's under my protection, Jisoo said simply. The hallway fell silent. The men outside exchanged uneasy glances. They clearly didn't know who they were dealing with, but Jisoo knew exactly who he was. He knew his name carried weight. He knew his silence carried warnings. He knew his reputation ended conversations before they began. So when the intruder barked, "We're taking her," Jisoo didn't even blink. "No," he replied. A single word. Cold, sharp, final. The man shifted forward aggressively. "You don't understand. She belongs to She belongs to no one. Jisoo cut in. His voice dropped into something deadly calm, the tone that made seasoned criminals rethink their choices. The man's eyes flicked to Amara briefly, and that was enough to make her gasp softly. Jisoo heard it, felt it. His jaw clenched. "Why are you here?" Jisoo asked. The man scoffed. "She ran away. She owes." Amara suddenly whispered, "Don't say anything, please." Her voice was tiny, but so full of panic, it felt like it could shatter if someone touched it too hard. Jisoo's gaze sharpened, not at her, but at the men. He stepped forward slowly, forcing the intruder to back away until he hit the wall of the hallway. "You have 3 seconds," Jisoo said quietly. "Leave. Now." A low laugh escaped the man. "Or what? You'll throw us out?" "No." Jisoo leaned closer, lowering his voice. "I'll bury the reason you came here." The intruder blinked, confusion flickering into fear as he realized the name Kong, Jisoo, wasn't just a rumor. Before he could respond, heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. Jisoo's men arrived. 4 of them, tall, silent, dressed in black, faces unreadable, eyes ready. They positioned themselves effortlessly, forming a wall between the intruders and the doorway. The hallway energy shifted sharply. The intruder's confidence evaporated. One of Jisoo's men bowed slightly. "Boss!" Jisoo didn't look away from the man pinned by his stare. "Escort them out." The intruder sputtered. "We just want the girl." A dangerous stillness filled the air. Jisoo's eyes darkened to something colder than winter. "You don't speak her name again." At his signal, his men grabbed the intruders, forcing them back down the hallway. Yells echoed, shoes scraped, curses spilled, but none of it mattered. The door closed behind them with a deep, echoing thud. And then, silence. Slowly, Jisoo turned back to Amara. His expression wasn't angry. It wasn't impatient. It was controlled, but softer around the edges. Her fingers slowly slid away from his jacket, embarrassed that she had held onto him like that. I didn't mean to cause all that." Jisoo stepped closer, and she instinctively pressed herself against the wall again, not out of fear of him, but out of habit. People moving toward her always meant bad intentions. But Jisoo raised his hand slightly, showing he wasn't touching her. "You don't need to apologize," he said. She looked down at her shoes. "Trouble follows me everywhere. I thought maybe if I came here, I could finally breathe." Her voice cracked. The truth she'd been holding in since the moment she arrived in Korea spilled out slowly, not in full sentences, but in fragments. "I keep running. Every day. I don't sleep much anymore. Sometimes I don't eat. I don't trust closed doors. When people raise their voices, I feel like I'm somewhere else. And I don't know why they won't leave me alone." Her chest rose and fell unsteadily. "I just wanted a normal life," she whispered. Jisoo watched her. Every small tremble, every shallow breath, every ounce of fear she carried as heavily as her own shadow. He didn't understand everything. Not yet, but he understood enough. "You're safe here," he said softly. Her eyes lifted in surprise. "For how long?" His gaze didn't waver. "As long as you need." Something inside her stuttered, the tiniest spark of hope flickering beneath all the fear. But before she could speak, a loud shout echoed from downstairs. Then a crash. Jisoo's head snapped toward the door. His men's footsteps rushed in the hallway again, fast, urgent, sharp. One of them burst back into the room. "Boss!" "The intruders! They brought more. They're forcing their way into the club." Amara's breath caught painfully. Jisoo's jaw tightened. "Take her somewhere safe," he ordered. The guard stepped forward, but Amara grabbed Jisoo's sleeve before he could move. "Don't go out there alone," she whispered, terrified. "They're not normal. You don't know what they'll do." Jisoo turned to her fully. His voice dropped into a tone she had never heard before. "I'm not afraid of them." Her eyes widened. "And I won't let them touch you," he added quietly. "Not while I'm breathing." Her hand loosened, but she didn't let go completely. She didn't know how to. Not after everything. Jisoo gently removed her hand, but instead of dropping it, he placed it against her chest. "Breathe," he said. She tried. Failed. Tried again. "That's it." Another crash downstairs shook the room. The guard stepped forward urgently. "Boss!" Jisoo nodded once. The guard moved toward Amara to guide her away. She hesitated. Her eyes searched Jisoo's. "You'll come back?" His gaze softened, just enough to make her heart stop for a beat. "I'll always come back," he said. Then he turned toward the door, straight into the danger waiting for him. And as the guard pulled Amara toward the back exit, the last thing she saw was Jisoo stepping into the hallway, his presence turning colder, sharper, and infinitely more dangerous than before. The hallway vibrated with heavy footsteps and shouts below as Jisoo walked straight toward chaos. His expression didn't crack. His presence alone felt like a storm gathering in silence, cold, precise, inevitable. Amara twisted back over her shoulder as the guard hurried her toward a hidden corridor at the rear of the club. Her heart hammered painfully against her ribs. "Please let him be safe, please," she whispered, barely audible. Her breaths came fast and shallow. The guard kept speaking calmly, saying, "Miss, this way, it's secure," but she couldn't process his words. All she heard was a crashing below and her own pulse roaring in her ears. She wasn't supposed to feel anything for him. Not fear for him. Not worry for him. He was a stranger. A dangerous one. A man whose world she shouldn't even be near. But the way he had shielded her. The way he had stood between her and those men. The way he had said, "I'll always come back." It clung to her like a trembling echo she couldn't let go of. The guard unlocked a side door and led her into a narrow stairwell behind the club. The light here flickered slightly, casting long shadows across the concrete steps. "Stay here," he said. "Boss said you'd remain safe until he—" A sudden crash downstairs cut him off. Amara flinched violently, grabbing the railing for balance. She couldn't help it. She was shaking again. The guard softened his voice. "He'll be fine. The boss always handles." A deafening scream ripped through the club, not from fear, but from fury. Amara's heart stopped. "Is that—" she whispered. "Yes," the guard said grimly. "That's him." Upstairs, Jisoo stood at the center of the main hall, surrounded by overturned tables, shattered glass, and a dozen unfamiliar men pushing into the club. They weren't random thugs. Their movements were coordinated. Their eyes were cold. Their clothes subtle but unmistakably foreign. One of them, a tall, thin man with a scar running from his ear to his jaw, cracked his neck as he stepped forward. "We told you. The girl comes with us." Jisoo's voice came out low. "You're trespassing." "You don't know who she is," the scarred man spat. "And you don't know who we are." "I don't care," Jisoo replied. The scarred man smirked. "She ran from us. She stole from us. We're just taking back what's ours." Jisoo's eyes narrowed in a way that promised consequences. "You touch her, you don't leave this place." A few of the intruders snorted. They thought he was bluffing. He wasn't. Down in the stairwell, Amara clutched the railing tighter, feeling a chill crawl down her spine. The guard stepped in front of her protectively as the echoes of struggling bodies and thuds shook the building. "Boss will handle it," the guard repeated, but even he sounded less sure now. Amara's breathing hitched. The fear she had fought for so long rose inside her again. But this time, it wasn't fear of the men chasing her. It was fear of losing the one person who had stood up for her. She leaned against the wall, hugging herself as memories flashed through her mind. The place she escaped from, the hands that tried to drag her back, the nights she slept with her shoes on in case she needed to run. Her jaw clenched. "No," she whispered. "I'm not going back." She straightened, wiping her eyes quickly. But upstairs, things were spiraling. Jisoo ducked a swing, grabbed a man's wrist, and twisted sharply. The man cried out and dropped to the floor. Another rushed him from behind, but Jisoo spun, landing a controlled strike to the man's stomach. He was outnumbered, but not outmatched. Still, every move was precise, not reckless. He wasn't fighting to show power. He was fighting to contain the danger in his club. He landed a final hit that sent another intruder crashing into a table. The scarred man chuckled slowly. "You're better than I expected, but we're not here to fight you." He leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. "We're here to take the girl your men just hid." Jisoo's eyes turned lethal. "You won't touch her." Then, from the upper level, two more intruders appeared, moving fast, headed straight for the back corridor, straight toward the stairwell, straight toward Amara. Jisoo reacted instantly. "Stop them." His men rushed forward, but they were seconds too slow. Down in the stairwell, the guard's phone buzzed with Jisoo's urgent voice. "Two coming your way. Protect her." The guard cursed under his breath and positioned himself in front of Amara. "Stay behind me." But the footsteps were already pounding toward them, fast, heavy, determined. Amara gasped, backing up until her spine hit the wall. Everything inside her froze. Her vision blurred. Her breath hitched. She knew those footsteps. She knew that rhythm. She knew that chase. "Please," she whispered, her eyes shutting tightly. "Miss, behind me," the guard repeated, but she barely heard him. The door at the top of the steps slammed open. Two men appeared in the doorway, eyes locked on her. "There she is," one hissed. Amara's legs nearly gave out. She stumbled backward, gripping the railing so tightly her knuckles turned white. The guard lunged forward. "You don't come any closer." The closest intruder smirked and pulled something from his jacket. Not a weapon, but a tattered photograph. He dangled it between his fingers. A photo of Amara. Her smile was faint, her eyes tired, her hair tied back. She sucked in a sharp breath, staring at her own face in shock. She hadn't known that photo still existed. "We've been looking for you," the man said, and her world tilted. "No," she whispered. Her knees buckled, because she remembered exactly when that photo was taken, who took it, what happened after, and why she ran. Upstairs, Jesus shoved past two men and sprinted toward the back corridor. The second he heard her scream, "Amara!" His voice thundered through the hallway. She looked up, eyes wide, terrified, desperate. And for the first time since she met him, she didn't try to hide her fear. She reached out a trembling hand toward him, just as the intruder grabbed her arm. The hallway outside the guest room was silent, too silent. Yenna sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tangled together, eyes still red from crying earlier. She kept replaying what almost happened, how close she'd been to being treated like she didn't matter, like she was just another passing moment in his dangerous world. She wanted to forget it, but the door clicked open, and he stepped in. Ji-won didn't storm in the way Mafia bosses usually did. He didn't smirk or tease or act like he owned the entire air she breathed. He just stood there, almost unsure. "Yenna," he said quietly. His voice was deeper, softer, almost hoarse. "Look at me." She didn't. She couldn't. Her heart pounded so hard her throat hurt. "You're scared of me now." He said it like a confession. Yenna swallowed. "I'm not scared." He stepped closer, slow enough to show he was trying. "Don't lie. I saw it." He let out a breath, frustrated at himself. "I shouldn't have touched you like that. I shouldn't have gone near you when you were trembling." Yenna finally looked up, eyes shining. "Then why did you?" That question hit him like a bullet. Ji-won dragged a hand through his hair. The strong, confident Mafia boss, suddenly looking like a man losing control of something he never meant to care about. "I told myself I'd just taste you and forget you," he admitted, voice low but honest. "But when I saw you shaking," he shook his head, "I couldn't do it. I didn't want to be the reason you cried." Silence swallowed the space between them. Yenna's breath caught. She never expected a Mafia boss, a man feared by everyone, to speak like this. Not to her. "If you want to leave this house," Ji-won said quietly, "I'll let you go. Right now. No guards. No one will stop you." Her eyes widened. "But," he continued, his voice suddenly trembling in the smallest, barely noticeable way, "if you stay, then I swear on my name that I'll treat you the way you deserve." He didn't touch her. He didn't move closer. He just waited, something he had never done for anyone. Yenna stared at the floor, her chest tightening. Did she want to run? Or was there a part of her that wanted to believe him? The seconds stretched. And then her voice came out barely above a whisper. "I'll stay." Ji-won closed his eyes for a moment, relief washing over him so deeply it almost looked painful. He'd planned to let her go, but she chose him, and it terrified him more than anything. The moment the word, "I'll stay," left Yenna's lips, the entire room felt different, warmer, heavier, charged with something neither of them knew how to handle. Ji-won opened his eyes slowly, almost like he was afraid she'd disappear if he moved too fast. "You'll stay," he repeated, as if confirming it to himself. Yenna nodded. He didn't smile. Mafia bosses didn't smile easily, but something in his expression softened in a way she had never seen. It was small, but real. "Then," he said, straightening his shoulders just a little, "you'll need to rest. You've been through enough today." Before she could respond, he turned toward the door. "Where are you going?" she asked quietly. He froze, just for 1 second, then looked back at her. "I'm not sleeping in the same room as you," he said simply. "Not tonight. Not until you trust me." Yenna's heart thudded, not because of fear, but because of how gentle he was being when he didn't have to be. Ji-won stepped out, closing the door halfway, then hesitated. "Yenna." His voice was low, almost careful. "If anything scares you, if anyone bothers you, call for me." She blinked. Why? His jaw clenched. He didn't want to look too vulnerable, but he couldn't hide it either. Because, he said, you staying means you're under my protection now. Those words lingered in the air long after he left. Yenna tried to sleep, but her mind kept replaying everything, his voice, his confession, the way he looked at her like she mattered in a world where she never had. She got up, walked to the balcony connected to the guest room, and stepped out into the cool night air. Down below, she spotted him immediately. Ji-won, standing alone in the courtyard, hands in his pockets, looking up at the stars like he was trying to calm a storm inside him. He wasn't surrounded by guards, not acting like a boss, just a man who didn't know how to deal with feelings he didn't expect. He sensed her presence and looked up. Their eyes met, and in that quiet moment, Yenna realized something she had never allowed herself to think. He didn't just want her. He was starting to care. Ji-won cleared his throat slightly. Can't sleep? Yenna shook her head. Me neither, he murmured, voice drifting through the night air. Neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke. But the silence between them wasn't uncomfortable anymore. It was the beginning of something neither could stop, even if they tried. The night breeze brushed Yenna's skin as she stood on the balcony, staring down at Ji-won. For a moment he didn't move, just watched her with an intensity that made her chest tighten. Then slowly, he walked toward the building, disappearing under the roof. A knock came at her door a few seconds later. Yenna. His voice. Low. Controlled. Too controlled. She opened the door. Ji-won stood there, still in his all-black outfit from earlier, sleeves rolled up, veins visible on his forearms. The kind of look that warned the world not to cross him. But his eyes softened the instant he saw her. I didn't want you standing outside alone, he said. She blinked. Someone could see me? Someone could see you, he repeated, jaw tightening. And there are people who shouldn't. That sentence dropped into her stomach like cold water. He stepped inside without touching her, keeping a respectful distance, but the room felt smaller the moment he entered. He looked at her long enough to make her breath catch. You should sleep, he said. It's safe here. Because you're here? She asked before she could stop herself. His expression changed, just slightly, like she had said something he wasn't prepared for. Yes, he answered, voice firm. Because I'm here. A sharp buzz sounded through the house. Ji-won instantly stiffened. Yenna jumped at the sudden shift. His calm was gone. He was alert, dangerous, focused. He pulled his phone from his pocket and answered it. What is it? He said sharply. Yenna couldn't hear the reply, but his eyes darkened. I told you not to come here, he hissed. A pause. I don't care who sent you. You don't step into my house without permission. Another pause. A colder expression. Fine. I'm coming. He hung up. Yenna swallowed. Is everything okay? He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time she saw something she didn't expect. Worry. Stay in this room, he said. Lock the door. Do not come out until I return. Her heart skipped. Ji-won, what's happening? He hesitated, hand resting on the doorframe like he was fighting something inside himself. There's someone who wants to see me, he finally said. Someone who shouldn't see you. A chill crawled up her spine. Before leaving, he stepped closer, not touching her, but close enough that she felt the tension radiating from him. If anyone tries to open this door, he said quietly, even if it sounds like me, don't open it. Yenna nodded, throat tight. Okay. He lingered a moment longer, eyes tracing her face with something almost protective. Good. Then he turned and walked out. Downstairs, voices echoed faintly through the walls. A man, sharp tone, confident, too confident. Yenna moved closer to the door, pressing her ear gently against it. She could hear Ji-won's voice, low, controlled, dangerous. You came here uninvited. The other man scoffed. You've been hiding something, Ji-won. Word spreads fast. Her heart dropped. Were they talking about her? You brought someone home, the man continued. A woman. Beautiful. Different. Unique. Everyone's asking who she is. Yenna covered her mouth. Ji-won's reply was ice cold. You don't get to ask. Oh, the man said, amused. So she's important? Silence. Dangerous silence. Then, she's not your concern, Ji-won growled. You sure? Footsteps. A low chuckle. Because the last time you hid something, people died. Yenna's whole body froze. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. She didn't know who that man was, but she knew one thing. Ji-won was no longer the only threat in the house. And whoever was downstairs was worse, Much worse. Yenna stepped back from the door, pulse racing. The man downstairs had a voice that chilled her bones, confident, sharp, amused in a way that felt wrong. But Ji-won sounded like a bomb slowly losing its safety pin. She pressed her hand against her chest, trying to slow her breathing. Then, bang! A sudden thud downstairs made her flinch. Voices rose instantly. "You need to calm down, Ji-won," the stranger said with a mocking tone. "I'm very calm," Ji-won replied, voice dangerously quiet, the kind of quiet that came before a storm. Yenna had never heard him like that before. She tried not to imagine what was happening, but the images still came. Ji-won standing nose to nose with a man who clearly had no fear. A man who walked into a Mafia boss's house like he owned it. Who was he? Downstairs, tension explodes. "You brought a woman here," the man said. "That alone is interesting." Ji-won didn't answer. "She's not like the others you spend time with," the visitor continued. "There's something different about her." Silence. Then suddenly, a table scraped sharply across the floor, like someone shoving it out of frustration. "Say another word about her," Ji-won warned, "and I'll break your jaw." The man laughed. Actually laughed. "You're getting emotional," he said lightly. Since when does Korea's coldest mafia boss lose his temper over a woman he just met? Yenna froze. Her throat tightened. She shouldn't have heard that, but she did, and the truth of it hit her hard. Ji-won wasn't just protecting her, because it was the right thing to do. He was angry, possessive, uneasy. Something in him was shifting because of her, and he hated how obvious it was. The man's voice softened into something more dangerous. "Relax, Ji-won. I'm not here to steal her. I'm here because you made enemies today." That sentence echoed in the hallway. Enemies. Plural. Her stomach dropped. Before she could stop herself, she took a tiny step toward the door, just as footsteps began climbing the stairs. Slow, measured, intentional. Yenna's blood ran cold. Was it Ji-won coming back? Or... The footsteps stopped right outside her door. A shadow moved under crack. Yenna backed away, heart slamming. Then, a gentle, calm knock. "Yenna," a voice called. Her breath caught. It wasn't Ji-won. The voice was smoother, lighter, almost smiling. "Can we talk?" he asked softly. "I won't hurt you." Everything inside her screamed no, but she couldn't move. She was frozen in place. The doorknob twitched, just a tiny shift, like someone testing to see if she had locked it. Her knees almost gave out. Then suddenly, step away from that door. Ji-won's voice, cold as winter, sharp as a blade, and much closer now. The other man chuckled on the other side of the door. "You're fast," he teased. "You're leaving." Ji-won growled. "Not before I see what is you so protective." A tense silence hung in the air. Yenna pressed both hands over her mouth. Ji-won spoke again, quietly, but with terrifying clarity. "Touch that door again, and you won't walk out of this house alive." A pause, then footsteps retreating. The stranger laughed softly as he descended the stairs. "Oh, Ji-won, you're in trouble. You're actually feeling something." The front door finally closed. Yenna sank to the floor, trembling. Ji-won stood outside her room for a long moment before knocking lightly. "Yenna," he called, voice low but steady. "It's me. You're safe now. Open the door, please." She hesitated, not because she didn't trust him, but because she finally realized. She wasn't just living in a mafia boss's house. She was living inside a war she never asked for, a war that had already begun moving toward her. And Ji-won was the only shield she had. But shields didn't last forever, not in his world. Yenna's fingers hovered over the lock, still trembling from the stranger's voice, from the danger she felt even through the door. She couldn't forget the way the man spoke, soft, calm, like danger wrapped in silk. When she finally opened the door, Ji-won stood there, one hand pressed the wall, breathing hard like he was holding back 1,000 emotions at once. His eyes scanned her, not in a romantic way, but in a protective, urgent, terrified way. "You're shaking," he whispered. Yenna didn't notice until he said it. Her hands, her shoulders, her whole body was trembling. I'm okay," she whispered back. "No," Ji-won said, shaking his head slowly. "You're not." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him quietly, the kind of quiet that meant he was still listening, still aware, still on alert. Yenna backed up slightly, unsure what he needed from her. Ji-won didn't move closer. He stayed at a respectful distance, but the intensity in his eyes made the air feel heavy. That man, Yenna said softly. He knew about me. Ji-Hwan stopped breathing for a second. He didn't hide it. Yes, he said. Who is he, she asked. Ji-Hwan looked away, not out of shame, but out of calculation. He's someone dangerous, he answered, and someone who should never have known you exist. Yenna swallowed. He tried to open the door. His head snapped toward her so fast she flinched. What? His voice dropped an octave, low and tight. He touched the doorknob, she confessed, voice barely above a whisper. Ji-Hwan closed his eyes, jaw tensing, shoulders stiffening like he was holding himself still by force. For the first time, he looked afraid, not for himself, for her. What does he want? Yenna asked. Me, Ji-Hwan answered quietly. Then after a beat, and anything connected to me. That includes me, she whispered. His silence was the answer. He took a slow breath, steadying himself before speaking. Yenna, people like him don't threaten. They act. If he came here tonight, that means something bigger is moving. Her heart twisted. Then I shouldn't be here, she said suddenly. I'm putting you in danger. No. The word left his mouth, so fast it startled both of them. Ji-Hwan took a step closer before catching himself and stopping. You're not leaving, he said firmly. But you're not leaving, he repeated, voice quieter this time. Not while someone is out there looking for you. Not while I can still protect you. Yenna stared at him. Why? She whispered. Why are you doing all of this for me? He opened his mouth, then closed it, looked away like the truth burned in his throat. Finally, he whispered, because I don't want anything happening to you. The honesty in that sentence hit her harder than anything else. Who was he? Yenna asked again. This time, Ji-Hwan answered. His name is Min-Suk. The name felt heavy, like something no one should say lightly. He's not part of my organization anymore, Ji-Hwan continued. He used to be one of my closest allies. Yenna's stomach twisted. Used to be? He betrayed us. Ji-Hwan's voice hardened. And now he works with the one group we should never cross. The group? Yenna asked. Ji-Hwan took a slow breath. They're called Black Viper. They don't negotiate. They don't forgive. And they don't stop once they've chosen a target. A target. The word echoed in her chest. And he came here tonight because of me, she said. He came here tonight, Ji-Hwan corrected. Because of me. You're caught in the crossfire, but I won't let them touch you. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then suddenly, Yenna's legs gave out. She sat down on the edge of the bed, head in her hands, breathing unevenly. Ji-Hwan moved fast, but not to touch her. He knelt down in front of her, keeping space between them, lowering himself to her eye level. Yenna, he said softly, look at me. She lifted her head. His eyes weren't cold. They weren't distant. They were steady, focused, protective. You're safe here, he said firmly. No one gets to you as long as I'm alive. That sentence hit her like a wave. She didn't ask him to promise that, but he did anyway. Not out of romance, not out of control, but out of genuine, undeniable protection. Ji-Hwan stood slowly. I'm increasing security, he said. No one leaves this house until I say so. Not you, not my men, not even me. He paused, then added quietly, I'll stay outside your room tonight. I won't go far. Why? She whispered. He looked at her like the answer was obvious. Because you're scared. And I don't leave scared people alone. Her throat tightened. Her hands trembled again. Ji-Hwan saw it. He didn't move closer, but his voice softened. Yenna, he said, you're safe. I promise. She believed him. She just hoped his promise wouldn't cost him more than he realized. Because outside that door, and somewhere in the darkness of soul, Min-Suk was not done. And the next time he came, he wouldn't knock politely. The neon lights of Seoul blurred outside the penthouse window, casting soft pink and purple hues across the marble floors. Rain pattered gently against the glass, but inside, the world had never felt so still. For once, the chaos of Mafia, the fear, the endless running, all of it had melted away. He stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, black suit perfectly tailored. The sharp lines of his jaw softened in the dim light. She was behind him, barefoot on the cool marble, wrapped in the silk robe he had insisted she wear. She looked so fragile, so delicate, but he had long ago realized fragility was never weakness. You could have walked away, she whispered, voice trembling. So many times. He didn't turn to her. He let his fingers brush the glass, tracing raindrops as if each one held a memory. And leave you? His voice was low, almost a growl, but soft enough that only she could hear. You've been the only thing that kept me from becoming someone worse. Her lips parted, emotions flickering across her face. Fear, relief, love, disbelief. She had lived so long in shadows, hiding from a world that didn't understand her. But here, now, she felt seen. Completely. He finally turned, and the intensity of his gaze pinned her in place. I was wrong, he said quietly. I thought I wanted only a night, only to taste what I couldn't have. But seeing you trembling, hearing your heartbeat against mine, I realized I don't want one night. I want every moment. Only you. Tears welled in her eyes, but this time they were tears of relief, of love finally allowed to breathe. She stepped closer until she could feel the heat radiating from his body. And I want the same, she admitted. All of it. No more hiding. No more fear. He cupped her face, thumb brushing along her cheekbone, memorizing every detail. Then we start over, he promised, voice trembling just slightly, betraying the depth of his emotions. No secrets. No walls. Just us. Outside, the rain softened to a drizzle. The city lights reflected in their eyes, mirroring a life neither had dared to imagine. Bright, unpredictable, and entirely theirs. Slowly, almost reverently, he leaned in, forehead resting against hers. Silence filled the room, but it was not empty. It was full of everything they'd been through. Danger, longing, pain, and finally, hope. I'm not letting go again, he murmured. Never, she whispered back, clutching him as if she could anchor herself to him forever. And in that quiet, stormy night, surrounded by the city that had once threatened to tear them apart, they found their peace. Not in safety, not in power, not in fortune, but in each other. For the first time, he smiled, not the calculating cold smile of a Mafia boss, but a smile that reached his eyes, soft and genuine. Then let's go home, he said, taking her hand. Our home. Together. And she smiled back, finally free from fear, finally allowed to lull without restraint. As the rain washed the streets below, it felt like the world itself was blessing their beginning, rather than mourning their past. Because some love stories, even born in darkness, are meant to shine, and theirs would shine forever. Korean Mafia boss only wanted one night, but when he saw her trembling, his heart stopped. The night soul breathe felt colder than usual. Neon lights flickered against rain-stained windows, the city humming with honking taxis, late-night convenience stores, and shadows that never fully slept. Somewhere high above the streets, inside a private room of Club Gwangjin, a man stood with the kind of stillness that made everyone else in the building hold their breath. Kang Jisoo, the name that made gang leaders lower their eyes and police chiefs lock their doors. Black suit, cold gaze, presence sharp enough to slice glass. He controlled half the underground logistics that ran to the Han River, and tonight was supposed to be simple for him. A quick meeting. A distraction. Nothing more. He didn't need complications. He didn't want attachments. He didn't allow anyone close. Not since that night. But everything shifted the moment the door opened and she stepped inside. Her name was Amara Hayes, a black American woman who had been in Korea for less than a year. She worked 2 part-time jobs, carried textbooks in a worn backpack, and hid exhaustion behind a brave smile. She wasn't someone who belonged inside a Mafia-owned VIP room. No one had explained anything to her. No one had told her who she would be serving. She held a tray with trembling hands. Jisoo noticed it instantly. Not the tray, the trembling. His gaze sharpened. She had soft brown eyes, wide with fear, and rain still clinging to the ends of her braids as if the night had followed her all the way inside. Her uniform was simple, black with pink trim, but the colors couldn't hide how nervous she was. Her breathing was uneven. Her fingers shook no matter how tightly she tried to grip the tray. The sight caught him off guard. He shouldn't care. He didn't care. And yet something tightened in his chest. She approached cautiously, her shoes tapping softly on the marble floor. The sound echoed to the silent room, bouncing off glass walls, designer chairs, and the faint, distant thump of club music downstairs. "Sir," she whispered, voice almost breaking. "Your drink." Jisoo didn't move. He watched her, observed her. Her fear was too real, too raw. Not the kind of fear people had around him because of his reputation. This fear felt like it came from life itself. "Put on the table," he said quietly. His voice was deep, calm, unreadable, but Amara flinched anyway. She placed the drink down, but the glass rattled lightly against the tabletop. She squeezed her hands together behind her back, trying to hide the shaking. Jisoo noticed that too. "What's your name?" he asked. She froze. "Amara." "Look at me." She hesitated before lifting her eyes, and he felt it. A jolt, quick and unexpected, like something inside him stumbled. Her eyes were tired. Her heart seemed heavy. And her fear, it wasn't fear of him. It was fear of the world. Fear of something she didn't talk about. Fear of something she carried alone. He didn't expect that. He didn't want to feel anything tonight. He just wanted a distraction from the memories clawing at him. A brief moment to forget everything he built his empire to bury. But seeing her standing there, trembling, vulnerable, trying so hard not to fall apart, something in him softened. Something he thought had been dead a long time. "Who brought you up here?" he asked, voice lower now. "The manager," she murmured. "He said you needed someone to serve tonight." Jisoo's jaw tightened. Of course the manager thought this was entertainment for him. Of course he assumed Jisoo wanted something else. His reputation always twisted people's minds. Amara shifted awkwardly. If I've done something wrong, I can leave. I'm sorry if..." "Stop apologizing." His voice cut through the air like a blade. She swallowed hard. Jisoo stepped closer. Not enough to scare her, but enough to see her face better. Enough to see the raindrops drying on her skin. Enough to hear the tiny, uneven rhythm of her breathing. "You're shaking." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Opened it again. "It's nothing. I'm just tired." He knew she was lying. Her eyes held a story. A fresh wound. Something she didn't want anyone to see. His cold gaze stayed on hers. "Who hurt you before coming here?" Amara's eyes widened, her fear spiking. Exactly the reaction of someone who had been treated badly tonight. Not just in life. He saw the truth immediately. He stepped even closer. And this time, she stepped back. Her back hit the wall behind her. Her breath hitched. She squeezed her hands together, knuckles whitening. "Don't," she whispered. The word was soft, but it broke something inside him. He lifted both hands slowly, palms open, showing he wouldn't touch her, wouldn't come closer, wouldn't do anything she couldn't handle. "I don't hurt women," he said quietly. "Not ever." Her chest rose and fell as she tried to believe him. A second passed, then another. Her trembling didn't stop, and that was the moment Jisoo realized the truth. He couldn't use her for anything tonight, not even as a temporary distraction. She wasn't someone he could forget in an hour. She wasn't someone who deserved to be dragged into his darkness. She was someone who needed protection, not pressure. He exhaled slowly, a frustrated, conflicted breath. This wasn't supposed to happen. He didn't let strangers get close. He didn't let emotions get in the way. He never reacted to fear or softness. But with her, everything inside him shifted. He stepped back from her first, giving her space. "Sit," he said. Her eyes widened. "W what?" "Sit. You're shaking too much to work." "I thought you called me up here for..." "I didn't call you," he interrupted sharply. "And I don't want whatever the manager assumed." She stared at him, confused. "Then what do you want?" He didn't answer right away. He didn't know himself. Finally, he said, "To know why you're trembling like someone chased you before you walked in." Her lips parted, startled, caught, vulnerable. But before she could answer, the door slammed open. Both of them whipped around. A breathless staff member stood there, eyes wide with panic. "Boss!" he choked out. "There's a problem downstairs. Someone's looking for her." Jisoo's eyes darkened immediately. Amara's breath stopped, and her trembling became fear.